Okay, so doing a VOD review for Super Daddy, also known as Andrea. Right, so I've watched this a couple of times now, and the first thing that I noticed after watching it the first time, I guess, so you win this game. That's great, congrats. Hope you got loads of SR, but I can't really analyse as many mistakes on a winning game, because ultimately the definition of a winning game is that you have made less mistakes than they have, right? And what I'm looking for is your mistakes. Now there are a few, but if you could send me games that's close loss, that's really what I'm looking for, is a really close loss. That gives me the best perspective on what to look for in your gameplay, because I can see that, okay, it was a really close game, so clearly there was some competition there, but then I can see what mistakes you made that could have changed the impact of that game, if that makes sense. So we'll start off with your team comp for this match. Now, I hate it. To be honest, I absolutely hate it. So, the Ryan Zarya for King's Row is kind of, it's been built as a standard, really. We've seen some changes around that. We've seen like a Orisa Hog, London Spitfire like an Orisa Hog defense, famously in the Great Bamboozle from the LA Gladiators in the semis of the finals for season 1. But Ryan Zarya is perfectly good. It's a really good map for them. This gap here, I don't know if you can see that, this gap by the choke basically is perfect for Ryan's shield, as I'm sure you know. So that's great, that's fine. And with that, Brigitte works excellently. Brigitte and Ryan obviously a great synergy. You're playing in a death ball, Brigitte does AoE healing based on the damage she does. Brigitte's damage sets up Ryan's damage, etc, etc. It works great. Also in addition, Brigitte's ult, the armor goes below your shields as Zarya, so you get the benefit of armor for a lot longer. So that's great. Now the problem I've got really is your choice of second healer and your 2 DPS. So Ana Brig doesn't really work at all, because Ana needs to play somewhere safe most of the time to allow her to get the LOS she needs to effectively heal the whole team. And with your choice of DPS, that makes it even harder. But I'll get onto that in a second. So Ana, in theory, Brigitte and Ana work well, because Ana doesn't have a lot of self-sustain and Brigitte can sustain an Ana. But the problem with that is that in order for that to be happening, the Brigitte would have to stay with an Ana, which in theory is at long range. At which point Brigitte becomes completely useless. So if we were to run Brigitte, Ana, and another healer, then it might be better. Perhaps a Brigitte, Ana, Lucio? That would work quite well. But you've got 2 DPS, and Brigitte really should not be used as one of the 2 healer slots. Brigitte is fundamentally a supportive DPS role. Now comes the other problems with this comp is the DPS choices. Appreciate this isn't all you, but just to give some background of perhaps what I think about this comp. Tracer is just a terrible pick here. Truly terrible. She's got no one to follow up her damage if she's doing it at a distance away from the team, and requires quite high skill from the main healer of Ana in order to heal her. Now in theory, yes, you could have the Brig just shoot her with her E and get healing, but not great overall, not terrible though. The Widow is fine, I suppose, but then essentially you have a front line of Zarya, Ryan, and Brigitte, which is not brilliant, really. So what you want to do is just maybe take a look at your comp next time and kind of figure out where your synergies lie, right? Because this is not a comp that synergizes particularly well. The Brigitte Ana, picking the Brigitte with Ana would be great if dive was prevalent, and more importantly if dive was prevalent on King's Row, because dive was never really the best choice on King's Row. Well, that's so a lot of people believed. I personally thought it was quite good, but okay, we'll move on from the team comp, because it's not your fault necessarily.
10 seconds. Look after yourselves out there. I'll get us home safe.
Come boost.
In Russia.
So, looks like your Rhine's about to start. Looks like you're all about to start taking place.
No, we don't.
Don't just stand around. Do something.
Come ti puoi mettere il doppio spray, che figata.
Reasonably good position.
Perché c'è la
Oddio,
porta.
mettere il doppio spray.
C'è la porta, te lo metti sia sulla porta.
Your Tracer is up on top of, is it hotel? Theatre? I can't remember what I think it's theatre. Your Tracer's on top of theatre, and that's fine. Depending on what they run. I mean, I'm trying to go at this with the impression that we're seeing it as we go forward, as you playing it, essentially. Depending on what they run, that could be quite risky. But I don't know the skill of the Tracer particularly well, so we'll have to wait and see. Apologies if you can hear a lot of wind, by the way. It's very windy.
Porta che... dietro.
Fanno un video?
Ha un HP, la guida.
Io provo ad andare sul...
So you seem to be reloading quite a lot, and by quite a lot I mean in inopportune moments. So if we just take a look at where you're reloading and at what points you're reloading, I don't think it's always necessary. Right, so shoot, reload. You're 50 health, 50 ammo.
Ha un
Holding,
HP, la
not really
guida.
doing anything here, which is kind of strange. But
Io provo ad andare sul...
shoot 50, reload. Bubble, good bubble on Brig. Shoot, right, you're down. Okay, you get this pretty well. I like that finish. You finished off your ammo clip with the right click. That's good. Good discipline. So you're 29 there. You
Come on.
shot 2 more secondaries.
Uso la colonna.
So your Tracer died. Died to the Widow. Now obviously I can't see your comp here, but that should not have been allowed to happen. You should have been looking out for the Tracer perhaps. Also, your Widow should have been competing against the enemy Widow. So that's not great, but it is what it is, so let's just keep going.
Uso la colonna. Uso la colonna.
Widow's finished off Lander, that's good. Yeah, I'm okay with that engagement. The engagement on the enemy team is quite terrible though. Never have engaged that.
Dove la guida non so adesso.
Okay, so that was messy. Very messy. I don't necessarily blame you for it, but it was. That was not a very clean engagement from either team, which again I can't really expect, but you're not really disengaging properly. You are chasing quite a few kills that perhaps you didn't need to. I thought it perhaps would have been a bit more beneficial to move back with your team. Let's just take it from here.
Dove la guida
You
non
can
so.
already see that the Widow's taking pot shots at you. You can already see that. You got hit. You're on 88 HP right now, so you probably should have been keeping more tabs and playing around the Widow more, because that is the reason you died. But you can't deal with the Widow, so what do you do there? Obviously, the easiest and probably best answer is you need to be communicating with your Widow that your Widow should be contesting, right? Now, unfortunately, you speak Italian, as does everyone else in this VOD, so you might well have said that, I don't know, but let's assume you didn't, just so I can make the point. That would probably be a good idea. Right, you reloaded at 50 again there, but you could have targeted and then that's great. Right, you see the line, yeah, that was not great. You could have taken a few steps back there and engaged from a little bit farther away, perhaps from Mini, where you were sat underneath statue. You could have then probably gotten a better advantage. You would have been away from the Widow, more importantly, and you could have actually seen where you were shooting. Because I mean, we've all been there, just the kind of shooting into the mass of red. But I think perhaps you could have spent a little bit, half a second, or you wouldn't even have to have walked in, but just half a second to think, okay, where is the best place for me to take this engagement? And that was by Mini, where you had cover. But you know, all good. You got the kills, so your team's going to be one down. Might end up biting you in the arse. So look at your honor right here. Right, And this isn't your fault, but it just illustrates my point. Brigitte has just altered. And because Joanna is playing away from the whole team, she's not going to get much benefit from that. As your Brigitte is now, by the look of it, running away. Right here, that looks like she's running away. Which isn't great, but it is what it is. So that's just an example of why your comp doesn't really work. So that's fine. It wipes up the kills anyways.
My ultimate is ready. Get
Which is
in
a
there
good thing
and I
too,
will
because
assist you.
if that fight had happened and
Vabbè, ma
your enemy team had
ditelo che carriate.
lost. Right, so your Widow's taking out the enemy Widow, that's good.
Vabbè, non è che è molto utile sta cosa, ma...
Cosa?
Trace has
Ho
died.
cliccato
Where
due
is your Tracer
volte.
died? Right. Your Tracer was frontlining. Not your fault again. Terrible. Terrible choice. It's not like she was out in the back. It's not like she was by spawn. She was by choke. Right? It's not really... not great.
No, aspetta, ti ha tirato a caso veramente. Non...
You're right, get the kill.
Ragazzi, io non ci posso credere.
Didn't know if you were calling out the focus for Diva there, but I hope you were.
Ragazzi, non ci posso credere.
Cosa?
Right, it's not your
Uso ha
job.
tirato una freccia mentre io blinkavo due volte e mi ha preso proprio mentre stavo in mezzo.
È possibile sta cosa?
You should be further up here. You're Ryan and Brigitte are frontlining, and you're just kind of in the back, just trying to land right clicks, and it's not really the optimal way to play. Your Widow did kill the enemy Widow, so that's fine, but this position you were in, like right here, right,
È possibile sta cosa?
not optimal. You are avoiding the Widow, which is good. Now you're not though.
Огонь по готовности.
So that grab was not good. Right, and the reason why that grab was not good is because you grabbed and then spent how long? Ready? Grab 1, 2, 3, 4. So of the 6 seconds of Graviton Surge, you spent 4 of it behind the statue. And you were on how many charge? 70-ish charge. Just food for thought. Could have gotten off quite a lot of damage. As it happens, it doesn't matter in this particular circumstance, but when you grab, it's annoying when your team doesn't follow up on it. When you're like, oh, I was grabbing and I was the only one there shooting. And then you have this situation where you grab and you're not shooting. Right? So, just food for thought. Just next time when you grab, make sure you're ready to follow it up as well. Unless it's like some kind of bullshit Hail Mary kind of grab, but don't do those. Okay, so you rode the Lion's died.
Ciao,
That's good.
sì.
Right, that nano was truly horrible. Your team had gotten, I believe, 4 kills, maybe 5, before that nano boost went out. That was genuinely atrocious.
Ti rendi conto?
No one
There you
can
go.
hide
Team kill, you're Ryan still nano.
from my sight.
Però mi
Unless
serviva
you were
questa.
boosting for ult, but I highly doubt it. Even though it wouldn't matter, that's good. Okay, I didn't hear anything over comms, but you should have communicated with your Rhine, or waited until your Rhine, engaged before you bubbled him. As a rule, in Rhine Zarya, the Rhine to be bubbled second. So if you have Rhine Zarya on Rhine Zarya, the Rhine to be bubbled second generally wins. Now the reason for that is that, generally speaking, when a Rhine Zarya and a Rhine Zarya get engaged, it's very cute. Basically, if you get bubbled second, then you, as the Zarya being bubbled second, have more of an opportunity to regain your shields back, right? And have follow-up from the team. If your Zarya bubbles the Rhine in the first instance, the Rhine can choose to disengage. Once that fight starts happening, it makes it a lot more difficult to disengage. What you've essentially done there is burnt a bubble, and I don't know how much charge you got. Oh, you got quite lucky. It was a reasonably good bubble actually, but point still stands.
Is that all you've got?
Your Widow's only, by the way.
Maximum charge.
Truly a pop chat.
Sono morto. Sbagliato, raga. Scusate, facevo il recupero.
Okay, your aim on left clicks and right clicks is very good. I haven't mentioned it yet, but it is very good. You're aiming exactly the right place. You rarely ever miss a shot. I don't think I've seen one miss yet, which is really impressive because they can be quite difficult, and as a Zarya it can be quite easy to just get carried away and just start right-clicking up in the air trying to land shots like you did by the look of it, trying to get the enemy Widow out of a position, but that's fine. Your team's engagement here onto the Rhine is excellent. The nano, or not the nano, the anti-nade and the Brigitte stun and the Rhine bubble as well. Perhaps the Rhine bubble wasn't needed, but you're at 100 charge. How much charge were you on before that? Right, you're on 94 charge. When you bubbled the Rhine there, I don't know if I like that, but in fact I don't like that because your Rhine probably would have got plenty of healing. But you took out the Rhine and that's great. Your Tracer died again in front of your defense. Your Tracer's not doing very well. But I don't think the bubble was necessary because you've now got an 8-second cooldown where perhaps that would come in useful. But we'll see in a second if it does.
Stanno carriando soli, quindi
It's not going to fucking matter. Right, you're too far forward here. Really, really too far forward. You're lucky your healer's got your back, but you're too far forward. You engaged on a kill that you perhaps didn't need to get. What was it? You already picked off quite a few of them. Baby D.Va's not that important, really. The worst that's going to happen is that D.Va's going to try and engage you again, and you're at like 93 charge, so she's fucked anyway. So perhaps wouldn't have taken this.
Oh, yeah, no.
Well, no, it's not fine. You see what I mean? They came back anyway. Haven't actually recovered your health yet. Stop aiming on the barrage, just target.
Ragazzi, guardate la feed.
Very good, right. Now I'm pretty sure this is where it goes downhill.
Cosa? LOL.
Che vuol dire?
The Widow dies.
Ora vola, io
Feels
no.
bad. She's trying to shoot the Widow again for some reason.
Scialla.
Perché ci muore?
Che devo fare? Nessuno mi bravo. Ho provato a scappare ma stanno tutti contro di me, devo prendere il crit.
Mi sono un point.
We have grab.
Yeah, you have grab.
Non è vero.
Grava.
Ragazzi, non si
No,
può
don't grab. That was a terrible call, right? So, appreciate listening to teammates is good, and it's important to have good communication and to listen to what your teammates are saying. But that call for grab you should have ignored, right? Your team was completely down. You were almost all dead. The enemy was at 6, and you grabbed before anyone respawned. Again, appreciate you need to listen to your team, but you can ignore them sometimes too. That was a really bad grab and a waste. Zarya's grab charges very slowly, as you know, unless you're like nutty good. I think Sinatra got a 47-second grab once. That was funny. Anyway, that was a wasted grab. Not great, but you were listening to what your team said. You just shouldn't have done that.
Of course. Dai.
You got the D.Va. Great.
Capito, mettermi il crit.
Your Brigitte engaged again, which was really stupid. I don't know what you were thinking or what she was thinking, that Zarya's grabbed it last 6 seconds. I'm gonna go and kill everyone in that amount of time. I don't know. Remember Zarya's, I noticed that the grab didn't get as many people as it normally would. Remember Zarya's grab distance has decreased. I don't actually know if this was filmed before that patch, but either way, your Brigitte engaging was terrible, and your grab was not great either. So now your Brigitte is dead, and you're not going to be back to a 4-man. Your McCree's behind you, so you're not going to be back as a 4-man probably until they're halfway to capping point B, which isn't ideal at all.
Il duetto che avevo già sentito uno che si chiama Professore.
I prefer this comp to the one that was being run before. That being said, I would have liked it if the Widow stayed on and the Tracer changed to something else. Probably not McCree as well, but your Widow was really keeping you in this game with her headshots onto the enemy Widow, who was also performing quite well. So I wouldn't have switched to McCree here.
Okay.
Maybe on point 3. Point 3 I would switch to McCree, but not here.
No, Nox.
Il rosso.
Right, so they're about to round this corner already, right? You could have taken the engagement way before that had you all grouped up. Or had you been on fed, essentially. Tracer did well at capping the Widow. Capping the Widow?
I'm gonna set this one camp.
Good bubble. Good bubble. Good reaction. Right, so what the hell was this reload, dude? Right.
I'm gonna set this one camp the Widow.
66 charge. You reload as you were engaging. I don't know how you managed to get the reload off. You then reload again at 66 charge and you don't get the reload. And now you do what you should have done before, which is shoot, right? So your reload management is not perfect at all. I get that I have it too. I'm not great at this either. It's one of my problems. Reloading just because you can is not the best idea. You need to be more efficient and you need to reload when it's optimal to reload. Because right there it wasn't, right? Where is it? Right, so looking here.
I'm gonna set this one camp.
Kill the Reaper. Reload as you're engaging on the Pharah and Winston, right? That is not the way to do that. You had 66 charge. You could have gotten in, well, I don't know how much. It's a fair amount of damage. I'm not doing the maths here, but you could have gotten a fair amount of damage with that. But you didn't because you were reloading. I don't know how it happens, but your reload animation seems very strange.
I'm gonna set this one camp.
Reload, right? And then the bubble cancels the animation. That's not getting confused. So it's fine. It looks like you guys are gonna cap here. And this is the point I'm trying to make, right? When it comes to like close losses, because you as a team did some horrendous misplays in the last 40 seconds of play, and you're still going to cap this point, or you're still going to retake the objective. So that's why I want a close loss, so I can see the mistakes you make that actually have an impact, because yours don't in this case a lot of the time. The whole team's mistakes, that is. You'll have noticed throughout this review so far I've said, you know, you shouldn't have done this, but it doesn't really matter because this has happened, right? What you should be listening to is you shouldn't have done this, right? Right, so that Winston's Primal Rage is not really a big threat, not really a problem, and also quite a bad Primal Rage. Because he was never going to be able to retake that point, and he was never going to be able to push the payload. Your Rhine just cleared everyone up by the look of it. Your Ana is also quite good. Tracer did well to stall the bush. It's good, well played.
Carry burst.
So your Rhine, where is your Rhine? Where the fuck is he?
In front of you, then?
Your Rhine is not aggressive enough at all. At all, not aggressive enough. He's not pushing advantages, and he's not frontlining, really. He's hid behind that building, and for some reason your Zen is sat on top of the payload. If that Widow just peeks around the side, she can pop your Zen, like just blast his little Omnic head right off. Same with you, and McCree. Your Rhine's not doing what you should be doing here. It's fine, because you're not dying, but make sure you're engaging and your team is engaging when they have the protection or advantage, or it's just an engagement. But at the moment you're kind of all half committing, so you shoot for a bit and then you could retreat back, and then I'm sure in a second you're going to go out, shoot for a bit, and if there's no one there you're going to retreat back again.
Sono italiani, puoi parlare in italiano.
There you go, you're retreating back again. Why? McCree had that kill. Right, a couple of quite poor bubbles there. We had the bubble on the line. Which wasn't necessary, but it's fine. And then your bubble there. Charging 2 bubbles.
Non puoi riuscire.
It's fine. C'è la robot. Tu farmalo.
Right. This is the single most forecasted Reaper ult I've ever seen in my life. Have you seen this shit? Right, so the Reaper's gonna walk up. He's gonna completely fucking ignore all of you. Then he's gonna shadow step, and then he's gonna press Q. And you did well to bubble. That's well played. But really, it's not. You should have seen that, and I don't know if it was called out because again, you're Italian, but in theory, you should have been calling that out, and they should have all been disengaging. Or you should have been chasing him. You should have just been chasing him. So Zarya's bubble can knock the Reaper out of the way. as I'm sure you know, but I'm going to show you anyway. Let's load up Overwatch. Make sure OBS is still working. It looks like it is, so that's good. Hope you don't mind, I'm going to use my vape. It's actually, I'm in my house, you can't tell me what to do. Give me a second while Overwatch loads up. I don't know how to edit, and I don't have editing software, and I'm not installing it, so I'm just going to go get some water. I'm back. So, first things first, let's open the loot box. Sorry, I got new juice in it and it doesn't taste very good. Oh, a golden loot box, how exciting. Wow. Don't care. Right. What you should be looking to do as Zarya.
We are strong.
So let's say this is an ulting Reaper right here, and let's say that is your teammate. What you should be looking to do is boot the Reaper away. Appreciate it's not as easy to do in the situations, but that's what you should be ultimately trying to do. And another thing about damage, I didn't see you do it, but so you can right click like this. Great. Or you can thread your right clicks with your left clicks. So let's go find another bot. So you right click, hold left click, right click, hold left click, right click. I didn't get the right click there, but right click, hold left click, right click, hold left click, right click. And at that point, I had 6 left, and I shouldn't have reloaded there, because what you can do is right click, hold left click, right click, hold left click, right click. And then you've got 8 ammo, right click, and you're good. So that's what you're going to try and look to do, is thread your right clicks and left clicks. Because your right clicks are just going to shoot really fucking slowly. But in between those, oops, fucking reload, you can hold left click and get the value out. That. So that's what you're looking to do basically. And just fucking missed that shot. See, I'm terrible, I told you.
Огонь по готовности.
Oh, Kobe!
Irresistible.
Anyway, so that's what you're basically looking to do. Looking to boot the Reaper out the way with your right clicks. If you land it kind of just by his feet, he'll go quite far. So that would have taken him away. I mean, I appreciate his ult would have lasted longer than less time than that, but just boop him. Try and get him out of the way. It might not work all the time, but you can just do something. Really, what you're looking to do is kind of throw your bubble. Obviously, that's not going to work, but I'm throwing my bubble here. Throw your bubble, and then boop. And you'll hopefully diminish some damage that he does. Or, ideal scenario is you bubble, provided let's say it's one major target. You bubble, wait for him to do some damage, and when your bubble runs out, you boop him away. And that works great, I guess. Anyway, that's enough Overwatch. So that's perhaps what could have been done there. Let's just have a look again at the actual situation. Right. So I can see you've got your Rhine and then someone else there. Your team is hiding in building. I think they come outside, which is obviously not great. It's not great awareness from them. But you didn't follow up that Reaper, right? And what you should have been doing there really is following the Reaper, because you know he's going to fucking ult. He's the most obvious person in the world. At least this Reaper is. You should have been following the Reaper. See which targets are likely going to die from his ultimate. In this case, it looks like it might be you as well. I think your Rhine's swinging, which he shouldn't be. He should be shielding, really, but that's fine. It's not your mistake. Look for the targets. Bubble the target who needs to be there, right? Ana can heal a Rhine through his ult if Ana has nade. Plus, the Rhine shouldn't be really taking any damage anyway, so you should have been following him. Maybe you could have done something. It looks like you could get boosted by someone.
Quando vuoi ti... Ah,
Gruppiamo e si ricontesta.
You got caught by the fire there. Is what it is.
My ultimate is
It
charged.
was right to die there
Весь
anyway.
учись.
Now you're Zen engaged again by the look of it. Not great. Someone else
Riesci a
is there.
toccare Jimmy, non certo.
McCree, I think.
Sì.
This
No,
will
your
end.
trace is still engaged. Where did you use your bubble? The butt?
This will end.
Get in there.
Your McCree was disengaging there. You could have bubbled your Ryan in here, I guess. It's not really imperative.
Se vuoi grafare, quando fai?
You burned your bubble, so it's
Non si può.
so that's fine.
Vai. Oh, guarda quanti...
Tutti!
Again,
No, Reaper fuori, basta. Buono.
it's fine, your tracer altered, saved the day. But you
Guarda
bubbled,
quanti...
Tutti!
you did like the 180 grab, went bang, and then ran away, right?
Vai. Oh, guarda quanti...
Tutti!
So that was how long?
Vai. Oh. Guarda quanti...
Tutti!
3. Half the time of the grab you spent not doing anything. Again, your tracer followed up. I didn't know if there was communication there, so it's kind of fine. I think this might have interrupted my video now. I don't know if you can still see me. Does it still work? Is it still working, everyone? Where's OBS? There you are. Sorry, my girlfriend rang, and I'm recording a VOD, so... Anyway. Yeah, so you spent half the time of Grav.
No, Reaper.
Engaging. I don't know if there's communication, because you're Italian. But you spent half the time of Grav not following up that damage. Can you not call me? Right, hang on. I'm gonna have to talk to my girlfriend here. Hey.
A couple minutes away, but I've left my keys at work, so when I call you, to let me in.
Yeah, sure.
I need the key for work probably. She said I could either swing by in the morning and pick it from her house, or she's gonna come and meet me before work and give it to me.
Okay, no worries.
I'll see you in a minute.
Okay, love you.
Love you too, bye.
Hey. Apologies. I don't know if that screwed up the recording again, but it doesn't look like it has. And now I can't hear anything. Oh, I muted it. Anyway, half time of Grav, not engaging. You're Italian, don't know if there's communication. Let's hope there was. But either way,
Reaper.
should have been trying to follow up. Fair kill on the Reaper. So, in conclusion for that first round, pretty good. But there were some mistakes. Your Grav on first point wasn't great. You're not committing enough. Perhaps as a result of your Rhine not committing enough, because I've seen you in practice and you are committing with your Rhine. But you're not grouping either, which is also a problem we had with the team, if you remember from Wednesday. So I think the main things to work on is aggression. I want to see more aggression from you. Perhaps bubble management. There's been a couple of times where you've used both of your bubbles, and you shouldn't be. You should be kind of back and forth in your bubbles to make sure you consistently have a good amount of charge. Not high charge. 100 charge Zarya is great. Really powerful, but Zarya is pretty shit when she doesn't have any charge. That's where her benefit comes from. She does a lot of damage when she has high charge. So make sure you're kind of segmenting out your bubbles more than perhaps you were at the moment. Ult management is in general I think you need to work on. Not necessarily on when you're ulting, because that one was a mistake that I appreciate your team was telling you to grab, which was fucking just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But the way you're using your ults, you're using them as you're kind of just throwing a grab out there, and that's not really what we want. We want to see a grab where the whole team engages, but by the whole team, what I mean is you engaging, because you spent the first grab you used on A with 4 seconds behind a statue, and then you spent that grab right before C with 3 seconds behind payload. Not even like walking towards them, not even facing. You could have maybe landed a shot. But all in all, these are quite minor mistakes, and you didn't get punished for them. But you will get punished for them in the championship. So let's keep watching. Let's look for round 2.
Score 0-1. Switching sides.
What was a poster?
Prepare to attack.
No.
Select your hero.
Gnator.
Snappy's still stuck in season 8, I think. She's cracked skin for the situation.
Bravo.
Again, your DPS just aren't lining up. Right? I don't know if you're going to switch, I can't remember, but the core that you've got right now is actually pretty good, other than the DPS. Right? The Pharah is probably okay if your Ana can aim, and your Ana's quite good, so I'm hoping she can. But the Genji is just not a great choice at all.
Sì, dai. Attenzione, farà merda.
Attenzione, attenzione,
Prima volta.
attenzione, farà versi.
Sì, sono
Come
3.
si vola?
Ah, boh. Come si spara?
Te vola, poi io fregasse lì.
Did you get a Mercy? I wasn't paying attention. Okay, you got a Mercy for the Pharah. Fine, but Mercy doesn't do very much healing anymore. And what you're essentially doing is, well, I don't know. See, your Moira can heal Ryan Zarya. That's fine, perfectly fine. Your Genji's going to be on his own, so your Genji needs to be quite resourceful because your Mercy's going to spend the predominant amount of time with the Pharah in the air. So, dependent on where your Genji plays, this might be okay. But I would perhaps switch the Genji for something a little bit more utilitarian. I would actually switch it for a Brigitte. So we have the Mercy Pharah unit up in the sky, and then we have Brigitte, Moira, Ryan, Zarya, who just aren't going to die at any point whatsoever. I mean, if I was being really, really pedantic, I would change the Pharah for a Diva. Just run goats, I guess, is what I'm saying, which is embarrassing, but...
Attenzione,
Prima volta.
attenzione, farà versi.
Sì, sono 3.
Come si vola?
Coming. Coming.
Thank you.
Right. Back.
Ah, boh. Come si spara?
Te vola, poi io fregasse lì.
Mancava qualcuno che parlava toscano.
Pure a me.
Ma,
Oh, io aggiungo.
vero.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
Ah, e allora sto a parlare inglese da 3 ore,
Sì,
zio.
vabbè, lascia fare anche noi. Andiamo.
Buono, buono. Go, go, go.
So you probably could have got more ult by bubbling right as your Rhine started engaging, or perhaps bubbling now. Generally, in lower SR, it's a better idea to wait until your Rhine hits that pin before bubbling, right? Because most people aren't going to be able to hit the Rhine so well. The soldier perhaps could have, but probably bubbling after. Your bubble here is pretty good, but no one's actually focusing you. So that's kind of sucks, but you know, keeping yourself alive. I would probably have waited for this bubble until you were at like 200 HP. Purely because you're basically giving yourself an opportunity to recharge your shields. So perhaps could have done that, but it's fine.
Tranquillo.
Alright, their Mercy got the res on the Moira.
Era per fare il pick.
This is your Mercy, shouldn't have been allowed the res on Farah. Your Farah.
Oh, Soldier mi ha preso qualcosa, veramente. Beh, hanno doppio hit, quindi,
You're moving targets quite a lot. And quite quickly as well. So let's see where you're targeting.
One. Go.
It's great.
Go,
Then you're
tranquillo.
targeting Soldier, then the Zarya. Now you're not really targeting.
Era per fare il pick.
You're targeting the Zarya. Feeding her charge, by the way. She's gonna get through. Attacking the Zarya.
Oh, Soldier mi ha preso qualcosa, veramente.
Kill the
Beh,
Zarya.
hanno doppio hit,
Soldier, you're trying to target the Moira. Actually, I was wrong.
Lol.
It's quite messy.
Fatti
You actually were targeting
poi.
individuals as they were dying, so that's pretty good.
Ma conosci per caso l'uomo
I
vacca?
like this engagement. I really like this because this is essentially what happened with your Brigitte on your attack. Sorry, in your defense. Your Brigitte engaged and died and gave the other team the advantage. What you're doing here is you're pushing the advantage, right? The Rhine died first, so the Rhine's going to respawn first. So what you're doing here is pushing that Rhine, stopping him from respawning and joining the rest of the team. So that's really good play.
Sì.
Non è vero.
Now, you didn't commit enough there, which is why you didn't get the kill. The McCree kind of spooked you, I think, which sucks, but it happens. I would have liked to have seen communication with your team to all of you push through and maybe just leave like Mercy or someone on the payload to cap the point and start escorting, and then the whole team push forward and engage, because that is what is going to fundamentally win you the match.
E l'uomo vacca.
A reasonable bubble.
Pushate il tuo.
Ok, no. Dai, devo trovare qualcosa che riesco a giocare. No, non riesco.
Another pretty good bubble.
Vai, ci sono.
Didn't pay off.
Sì, dai, ricordiamo.
Disengage.
Zero.
Basically, your 2 DPS died because they didn't know when their advantage was lost, right? And your team capped the point, and you started pushing forward with your Genji. Great, because they were at a serious disadvantage. But then everyone else respawned, and you did start disengaging, but your DPS didn't, and that is what made them die. I don't know what happens, but this would be an advantage if I were them.
Aspettate usare ulti che
Focus on
come
the
verranno.
Zarya on the right, by the way.
Vabbè, se serve usate. Ok, huge.
Wow. See, this is what I mean, right? So, huge misplay from your team because your 2 DPS died. Now, if they were a reasonable team, they would have engaged that and they probably would have won. But they didn't because they're bad, and it gave the opportunity for A, you guys to push forward, and B, your DPS to respawn, and your Doomfist to kill their Rhine, and your Genji to kill their Moira. So,
Siamo stuprata. Dietro.
that's why I like a close loss.
Heal up.
So there's no way they cap this.
Hanno da fare.
Usciamoli fast con la blade cattiva.
They're never going to cap because they don't have any ults. Or they don't have anywhere near as many ults as you guys do. Because you basically clean swept them on point A. You then did this, it wasn't even a team fight on point B. You haven't really had a team fight yet. Maybe that one that just happened counts, but I don't think so. It wasn't very good, it wasn't very clean. It was just kind of a, people just kept, the enemy team just kept mispositioning, and then you won as a result. Oh, that'd be also
No. No.
You were too focused on the Pharah, which wasn't great. The Pharah wasn't posing a huge threat at that point, and you should have been looking after your Rhine.
Hanno preso Fara, che fanno? Facciamo grave coso. Posto.
So did that
Solo combiniamo due fisse di Zarya, dai.
But you're about to have quite a few
C'è
going
Fara
on.
qua adesso.
Perseverance is the key. Nanoboost is charged.
No, no.
You McCree losing a lot of health there by just poking for no reason.
Nanoboost is charged.
Their team has done well to push that advantage and make sure
No, no.
they're defending at the furthest possible point.
Renard sta sotto.
Aspettami Dead, aspettami. Quando vuoi.
I'm gonna say it again, dude. Right,
Vai.
let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before you started shooting. You had 1 second of shots there. Your Doomfist did well, you did the Space Jam combo, that's great, but again, you did not push anything there. You should have just wiped them out, because anyone that was going to be outside of that grav was going to die anyway if everyone inside the grav was killed, right? There's no way that 1, 2 people push the advantage. They can't. They'll die. So you should have been engaged there. Again,
Presa,
you've got
presa,
lucky
dai.
because their team is
Bella,
so
bella,
reasonable
raga.
and you are getting follow up.
Hello.
Why was that
Sì,
nice?
resta. Ah!
So you won there. Well done. As I said, I hope you enjoy the SR, but Gravs need working on. You need to work on actually engaging it in your Gravs, as opposed to just shooting them and hoping the rest of your team. I'm going to bring up your comments that you made on your own VOD. So you need to actually engage in your own Gravs. You need to pay more attention to where people are ulting, because that Reaper just got really easy picks and essentially dismantled your team, even though that you were at an advantage. Your aiming is pretty good. Your target acquisition is pretty good. You're not aggressive enough, but your Rhine wasn't very aggressive. So I'm hoping that SDBB plays a nice aggressive Rhine. From what I've seen, it's reasonably aggressive, but could be more aggressive. And that's great. So overall, really strong play, but just needs some basic discipline, I suppose, with what you're doing and how you're doing things, because at the moment it's quite ropey. Namely the Gravs. The Gravs really irk me, because you could be really easily team wiping people, because every time you grab, you're at high charge. I've noticed that. You're getting to like 60, 70, and you're grabbing, when you can just deal a shit ton of damage. Of course, right clicking into a grab is nuts. Huge amount of damage. So try and do a bit more of that. But yeah, overall, pretty good. So if you are going to send me a VOD review again, close loss, please, because then I can properly critique with all of my critiqueness. So yeah, cheers.